minutes. So I will start from the beginning. My name is Sergey. I'm a founder of Data Science Society, and within the next half an hour, we are going to present you our case, also the data set, and if you have any questions which are relevant to our next datathon. So here the datathon is Hack the News, where we identify and fight against news propaganda. And just to start with the summary, Data Science Society is a collaborative place where we believe that people need to share, work together, and learn in a friendly environment. We also believe that a lot of open source solutions and code needs to be broadcasted and shared. Something is what we did for the last 4 years. We did a lot of meetups, conferences. Up to now, we have 5 datathons. One of them was about the fake news, and now we are fake news identification. Now we are upgrading with the propaganda identification. We also have more than 2,000 members. We work with a lot of universities, and we have more than 100 solutions of 28 business real cases. Something probably which is good to share about Hack the News Datathon. It is something which we started early in April together with PreSelection, and there was an idea what is next and what is vital and what is important for us as a society. And we all know that we are there is a massive weapon which reflect on us in all media around us. We know that every person now can be treated as a journalist. So there is a lot of messages around us with misleading information, and fighting against such messages is a good start for us as a society, as a community also. So that was one of the ideas, that fighting against propaganda, against these examples which we recently have, like Brexit, like the last election of American elections, and such kind of stuff, which we believe that providing AI and machine learning can improve the journalism itself. So that new topic it is a research problem. It starts from Qatar, where PreSelection is heading this department, and also we start working with AData Pro for annotating the data. The good part is that Qatar Research Institute, they work for that for the last year, and they have a couple of projects with different universities, which you can see here. And we believe that the new methodology which they use is something which is cutting edge, it is the right tool, the right set for identifying propaganda. And also the annotation of the data. This is a very unique data set, which is annotated from professionals of AData Pro using the unique methodology created and developed from QCRI, from Qatar Computing Research Institute. And now the next step is to give a floor to Giovanni about providing more information about the case, and to reveal some points of what is the data set, and then we will jump to the questions section. So again, to repeat, go on Slido, and the code is DSS, Data Science Society, and raise your questions. I think currently we have some, just want to share them. Just a second. So yeah, we have 4 questions here. And now, Giovanni, now it's your turn. So go ahead.
Hi, I'm Giovanni Martino. I'm a scientist at Qatar Computing Research Institute, and we'll go in the next 10 minutes through the task definition and the data. So let me share my screen. I have some slides. I hope you all can see it. Okay, and then I'll start. So some of the things were already covered a bit. We've been there's been a lot of propaganda in the news in the recent years. Although propaganda is not anything new, it's been around for at least 100 years. But the difference is that before, usually propaganda was something that was done by governments, had the control of mass media and a lot of economic resources. Lately, what happened is that with the rise of the internet and social media, it is very easy to reach with some messages a very large audience. So in principle, even very small groups of people are able to make some propaganda campaigns, some massive propaganda campaigns. So we already talked about the definition, and so what we want to do is to devise tools that are able to spot the use of propaganda in news, so that the user can be and make the user aware of it. So what we are interested in this set of tasks is how a propagandistic message is created. So if I want to convey some to make a propagandistic message, what should I do? And it turns out that there are in literature a number of techniques that can be used to create propaganda. We made a list of 18 of them. We compiled a list. The list is available. Sorry, my screen just disappeared. The list is available on the website of the hackathon, and with the definition and some examples. Let me go through a couple of them. Let's say, so one of the things that can be done is to, instead of provide a good counter argument, what can be done is to attack directly the opponent. For example, by calling it names. This is one of the techniques. Another example of the technique is bandwagon, and it happens when you say that something is the right decision, is the correct thing, because a lot of people think it is. This logically makes no sense, but can be very appealing to the audience. So this is just an example of 2 of the 18 techniques that are present in our data. So we have defined 3 tasks. They are an increasing level of difficulty, we think, and we have 2 data sets. So the first task, you're giving a full article with the title and the text, and your goal is to classify it as being a propagandistic article or not a propagandistic article. The second task, you're still given the full text of an article, but it's at a different granularity. What you have to do is to classify whether each sentence contains any of the technique that we were mentioning before, any of the 18 technique. So you have to provide a classification for each sentence of each article, says whether the sentence contains propaganda or does not contain propaganda. Finally, the third task, in the third task, the participants are requested to recognize the specific techniques that are applied in a text article, in a news article, and find their exact location in the article. So this is an example of the third task, which is at fragment level. And the text, the colored text are propaganda techniques. We talk about the name calling, and this is the one in red. So, like Manchin Democrats says, Democrats acted like babies. Babies is a name calling for the Democrats. This is the only one that we exemplified. There are others, and these are the ones. So in this task, you are requested to identify babies as name calling. So as I was mentioning, there are two data sets. The first one is used for the first task, to classify whether an article is propagandistic or not. So we have a total of 51,000 articles for this one, so it's quite a substantial data set. The second one, which is used for task 2 and 3, which were at sentence and fragment level. For this one, we take into account the number of sentences, and we have a total of 21,000 sentences. The corpus is divided into training, development, and test sets. The training is provided to the participant with the gold label annotations, and so they can train and learn the system on it. Then we give the development and the test without any annotation. They can use the development, they can make prediction on the development. They'll submit prediction to the website of the hackathon, and they'll get feedback on it, almost immediate feedback from it. And they can have any number of submit, tune the parameter of their system on it. And also we will keep track of on how all the participants are performing. Finally, there will be a test set in which at the very end, all the participants will submit their prediction on, and will give only the feedback after the end of the competition. So in this case, will be only one feedback. So getting a little bit into details, the first task, we have one file for the training set, one file for the development, and one file for the test set. So in the training set, we have one article per line, and so each line is composed by 3 columns. The first column is the title and the content of the articles. In this case, we replace the new lines with 2 spaces, 2 consecutive spaces. So the full article is on one line. Then the second column is the ID of the article, and the third column is its classification for the training set, so the string propaganda or non-propaganda. You can see here an example in which we have in the first part the article. I cut it obviously, and in the second column, the second column, the ID of the article, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and the third column is classification. In this case, the article is propagandistic. So the output that we expect is one file with 2 columns, tab separated. The first column would be the ID of the article, and the second column would be its classification, so whether it's propaganda or not. You can see an example at the bottom of the slide, like here. This is how it will look like. The evaluation measure is the standard F1 for this task. In the second task, we have for each news article, we have 2 files. One file which contains the title and the content of the article. Each line of the file is 1 sentence. So we use the NLTK package to split the sentences, and should be 1 per line. Do not expect this split to be perfect, because we did it automatically. And the second file is a tab separated file, like the one you see at the end of at the bottom of the slide, with 3 columns. The first column is the ID of the article. The second column is the ID of the sentence. And the third column is the classification of the sentence, whether it contains propaganda or it doesn't. So whether it contains any of the 18 propaganda techniques or it doesn't. So the output will be similar, will be in the same format. So will be one file per news article with 3 columns. The first one will be again, the idea of the article. The second one, the sentence, the idea of the sentence, and the third one, whether it is propaganda or not. We will provide some template files in which, with the correct format, in which we replace the correct classification with a question mark. So all the participant has to do is to replace the question marks with a correct label. Finally, the third task. The third task is, again, we give 2 files per article. The first file is identical to the ones for the task 2, so it's a title and the content of the article, 1 sentence per line. The second file is a tab-separated file, this time with 4 columns, because if you remember, we want you to identify the correct technique and where it is located. So the first column would be the ID of the article. The second column would be the start of the fragment. So in this case, it starts at the 34th character. And the third column would be the end of the fragment, and the fourth column, the name of the technique. So in this case, we have name calling that starts at 34th character and end at the 40th. Just a quick note, we start counting from 0. So the first character as index 0. So in this case, we expect the participant to give as output a 4-column tab-separated file. We don't give a template because we don't want to tell the user how many techniques are per in each article, but it's going to look like the ones here at the bottom of the slide. The evaluation measure is a bit trickier in this case because not only you have to identify the correct technique, but you have to identify its precise location. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna discount all the solution for which there's not a perfect overlap. So the more, let's say, if you take a look at this figure, on the top part, we have a reference like the gold file with 3 annotations, 3 fragments annotated with 3 techniques, techniques 1, 2, and 3. And at the bottom part, we have a user submission. So if you start from the right, there's 2 perfectly overlapping fragments, but the user, I said, this is of 1 class, while it actually is of the different class 3 instead of 4. Here we use numbers to not clutter the figure. So this would be wrong. On the contrary, if you watch the fragment on the left, the classification is correct because the class is the right one, but we will penalize a little bit because the fragments do not overlap completely. So the one from the user is a bit larger than it should be. We will give details on how this is computed, some precise mathematical formulas and so on. Okay, this is all from our side.
Okay, thank you, Giovanni. What I noticed, I will just again share my screen, is that I really want to thanks to you, Alberto, Preslav, Victor, and Laura, because you are the guys who support us and make this happen. Yeah. It is something that we believe in Data Science Society, that if there is a good idea and right people behind it, we will support it and work together. Okay, so now I will open to see what kind of questions we have. The first one, so I think all of them are to Giovanni. Should I read them or you can read it from here?
I can read them.
Hello, I want to ask, does your data contain fake news or just propaganda? Is validation and test set available after Datathon?
So the data has been annotated with those 18 techniques that I was mentioning. So we don't deal directly with fake news. So there's not going to be a label saying this is fake news or not. And the list of techniques are available on the website. I think it's not worth it now to go through all 18 of them. The validation and test set will be eventually available. We can promise a date as of now, but they will be eventually available.
Okay, that's perfect. So I think you answered on the second question about is the label data about propaganda and fake. So you answer it is propaganda.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, about judging criteria or how this question probably is relevant to this the performance, how the performance of the teams are going to be measured and what they need to focus on.
Yes, as I was saying, we mainly use the F1, and for the for the third task, we have a slight variation of the F1, which we need to take into account how much the overlap of the fragments is consistent. But
Yeah.
as an approximation, you can think of it as F1.
Yeah, something what probably we didn't mention is that during the datathon, there is a leaderboard, automatic leaderboard. So at the end, the criteria is based on this how good is the matching. So there will be percentages, and it will be online, so everyone can see what is his performance. And the finalists are going to be selected on Sunday. After the deadline, so we will get the cutoff and choose the top the top performance for each task, and then they will go to the final. So after Sunday, they will have day and a half to prepare a small video presenting their approach and their solution. And based on that, on Tuesday evening, the jury will vote for the best solutions which are presented from the finalists. And there will be questions and video session with up to 2 or 3 minutes, where juries can raise their questions to the finalists. So did I miss anything?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. So yeah, unlike in previous cases, right? In previous hackathons, everything was up to the jury, right? There was so now we have a pre-selection criterion, which is your system has to be among the top few, maybe top 2, 3 or something like that, to be determined in at least one of the 3 tasks, right? This qualifies you to be considered by the jury. And then the jury is going to make a decision taking into account the scores that your system has achieved on each of the 3 tasks, but also taking into account the presentation that you make, the way that you answer the questions, and of course the article that you write. So by the way, if you don't have anything written in an article, you're also kind of disqualified. So you have to have an article of some reasonable length written, and you have to have good results to be considered by the jury.
But as I understand, if I understand correctly, they don't have to participate in all 3 tasks.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a good point, because at the end, not only the leaderboard, we will look into because our main idea is to support that initiative. So we are looking for open source solutions. So we will look into the article and your code. So if something is missing, you will be missing the finals. So yeah. Okay. Next question is where we can find channel for communication to interact with advisors. Probably I can start with it. So here I can answer on this one. So we have once you register into the platform, you need to log in into the data chat. Data chat is the platform. It is like open source Slack, the platform is Rocket Chat, and there is a channel NLP, NLP and text mining. So if you have any questions before the event or even since now, this is the time, this is the place where you can raise the questions. Anything else, Preslav and Giovanni? I think this.
Okay. No, I think that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. The last one. Don't you think that there is a reasonable argument about propaganda being subjectively defined?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in the first task, we consider the full article, and we have a label where this is propagandistic or not. In this case, I could agree with the person who asked the question. Says there could be some subjectivity on how the full article is evaluated, and that's actually the reason why we thought about tasks 2 and 3, in which we try to identify the basic techniques, and we think that the identification of those techniques is something that is more, let's say, more objective than just giving an evaluation on a full article. And obviously, the fact that the techniques are in place does not automatically mean that the full article is propagandistic, but it's a way to identify things that are more objectively, and then we can have a subsequent analysis based on the techniques that have been found in an article.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Anything for Swap or Giovanni cover everything?
I mean, the point is that, I mean, whether something is okay. One thing about propaganda, right, is that it has to be on purpose. So you are trying to manipulate public opinion, right? But you do it on purpose. So you have to show intent. Showing intent is not so easy, right? Kind of, and the intent is an important part of the definition of propaganda. So, I mean, in that respect, it's kind of subjective, yes, for the first task. You can argue that. So this is why we have the other 2 tasks where you are really focusing on the propaganda techniques. So we don't know whether this particular article is doing something on purpose, but look, they are using this technique, and this is kind of a propagandistic technique. It's a non-propagandistic technique. See, in this particular piece of text is actually an instance of this technique. And then that other piece of text is an instance of another technique. Whether they do it on purpose or not, that's a different story. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Then it's up to the, let's say we have, in the future, we have a tool that highlights all these techniques. And then the user can have, it's informed decision on the full article or on the source or whatever. That would be the best case scenario for us.
Okay.
And the other reason why we have the other 2 tasks is that we don't want just to have a system that says, look, this article is likely to be propagandistic or not. We want to go more in the direction of explainable artificial intelligence. And this is a very important topic these days, very hot topic that, especially those deep learning neural networks, they have become less and less interpretable. It's kind of harder and harder to understand why a decision is being made. So we want to enable systems that are going to explain to the users why a decision has been made. So even if you say, okay, I'm going to make a decision whether this is a propagandistic article or not, I can also highlight where exactly propagandistic techniques have been used and what particular types.
Yeah, that's a perfect answer. Something else which I want to mention here, because now with this Datathon, we are introducing 2 functionalities. One of them is this leaderboard. So you can receive the scoring of your model, of your work, almost immediately. And the other part is because we launched it as an experiment on our last Datathon, we call this data.cloud. So you will receive further information how to access it. This generally is you receive a link, and you have access to Jupyter Notebook with allocated resources, and you very easily can start writing your code and having access to the dataset. And this can support you to be much faster and not lose time to download data, setting up environments, making such kind of additional work which normally is needed. It takes seconds. So you will receive all this information on the website. Also on Tuesday, on the 22nd, we will send emails and there will be an article around that. Anything else? Giovanni, Preslav, to mention here?
No.
Well, no.
Here, do we have anything else? Okay, I think that's all. Please, yeah, and for those of you who are hesitating, the registration is closing on 21st. Probably as an update up to now, we have 100 participants. So let's see what is going to be the amount of people. So thank you again, and we will delete the first 5 minutes just to where there was such kind of confusion. So thank you again, and waiting to see you on 22nd. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.